Hello, everybody. Hello, good evening. It is so nice to be here with you this evening. It is so nice to be delivering this wonderful topic for today. And it is so lovely to see all of you saying hello to each other, where you're from. It is so wonderful to see the participation already happening. Welcome. Welcome to this evening session and welcome to the New South Wales Family Daycare Association and Peak Training PD in Your Pocket series. My name is Rebecca and I am your facilitator for this evening. I am a trainer and assessor, and I have been for the past 2.5 years. I also have 15 years of experience in the early childhood sector, and I'm extremely excited today to be diving into a very, very popular topic. And as you can see, art in family daycare. How exciting. So I hope everybody is ready for this evening. Now, we're just going to go to next. Okay, so before we begin, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the country which we meet today. I know we are on many different lands with many different traditional owners, but I'm currently presenting from the land of Gadigal people, and I would like to acknowledge them and recognize their continuing connection to the land, waters, and culture. I'd like to pay my respect to their eldest, past, present, and emerging. And I acknowledge the Aboriginal families have cared and educated children on this land for tens of thousands of years. So tonight we'll be looking at these particular topics to cover. We have what art is and why it matters, elements of art, process versus product art, and art spaces. In terms of housekeeping for this live session, I will be encouraging you to use the chat function and to communicate with each other as well as reaction buttons if you'd like. We'll also have some time for questions at the end of the session, and you can use the Q&A function for this as well. Tonight, I'm joined by a member of the association team, Jenny, who can assist with any tech support you may need or any comments that you are putting up your hand for, because I can see some hands being raised. So hopefully Jenny can support you with that. But if all else fails and something is not right and it's not connecting, consider maybe rejoining the meeting and then coming back. I find that often works as well. And in terms of the wonderful participants raising their hands, just pop your question in the chat as Jenny can support you. If it's a question in terms of the topic tonight, and if you've already got some questions, we do have time for that towards the end. So thank you very much, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. So PD in your pocket, free PD for FDC. This is number 50, Art in Family Daycare. This PD in your pocket is funded by the New South Wales Family Daycare Association in partnership with Peak Training. Did everyone receive and read the resource booklet? If you have, absolutely amazing. If you haven't, don't worry. It was sent yesterday to everyone who already registered by then. It will also be available on the New South Wales Family Daycare Association website next week after the live session, along with the recording of the session. So whether you have it or not, I'm sure it's all been sent to you, but don't sweat because it always will be put up the following week along with the live video today. If you didn't receive it, you can find the link on the screen if you are watching a recording of this presentation. If you are listening to this as a podcast, the link is in www.nsw.org.au/PD in your pocket. Just a reminder about the survey you will be sent after this session. Please complete the survey so we are aware of your feedback. This genuinely helps us with your ideas and topics and funding to continue providing this free training. Thank you so much, everyone that did fill out the last month's survey. In terms of statements of attendance, so your statement of attendance will be emailed to you within 1 week if you are in the live session. Make sure you check your junk mail as well, because sometimes those emails can slide into the wrong folders. And if after a week you still have not received your certificate, please contact info@peaktraining.edu.au. Okay, so what did we learn from you? Now we're just going to go back and reflect a little bit on the past survey that we did give out, and we have received wonderful stats, which is so exciting. So it's terrific to see that 58% of you feel very confident facilitating art experiences with children. 39 of you feel somewhat confident. 3% of you feel a little unsure, and less than 1% of you don't feel confident yet. So that's a pretty good stat. How confident do you feel facilitating art experiences? Wonderful. So on to the next slide. How often do you offer art experiences with children? So it's really impressive to see that 51% of you offer art experiences every day. 43 of you offer art experiences a few times a week, and 6% of you occasionally offer art experiences, and less than 1% rarely do. So just looking at this, it's a really decent number about how engaged and how often you offer these art experiences to the wonderful children we take care of. When planning art experiences, which approach do you use most often? It's interesting to see that 14% of you use a product-focused approach when planning art experiences. 23% of you use a process-focused approach. 61% of you use mix of both process and product. And 2% of you are not sure what this means. And that's totally fine, because we're going to cover everything tonight. And it's wonderful to see these great feedbacks and starts. So here we are with our first wonderful slide. Nice and easy to get into today's session. What is art? Art is a powerful form of expression, a way to share ideas, emotions, and creativity. Many people think that art is painting on canvas and sculpting with clay, but art is much more than that. It's for anyone who wants to experience, create, or simply just feel. Art has existed for thousands of years and continues to evolve in unique and inspiring ways. It can be found everywhere, in books, music, theatre, artworks, sculptures, and film. Ultimately, art is a personal experience. It's about the meaning you draw from it and the emotions it stirs within you. Everyone connects to art differently, and through that connection, we all have the potential to grow. Why art matters. As an educator or a teacher, you have the opportunity to make art a valuable part of your children's daily experience. It encourages them to explore their ideas, express their emotions, and develop confidence in their abilities. Through art, children learn to communicate without words, make decisions, solve problems, and experiment with colors, textures, and materials. When you provide open-ended art experiences, such as painting, collage, play, nature-inspired creations, music and movement, role plays, or even mixed media craft, you give your children the freedom to imagine and express their individuality. This supports their cognitive, emotional, and social development, while fostering a sense of belonging and pride in their work. Art in your program is not about creating the perfect product. It's about the process, the journey. It's about curiosity, discovery, and connection. When children engage in art, they are building the foundations of creativity that will stay with them throughout their lives. So, the elements of art. Art is built upon key elements that help us understand and create visual expression. Each element works together to communicate ideas, emotions, and movement within a piece. So I'm going to draw your attention to this beautiful slide here, and I want you to draw your attention to the image where it says line. Now, lines are marks that show direction and movement. They can be thick or thin, straight or curved, and they are the foundation of all art. Lines guide our eyes around an artwork and can express emotion. For example, curved lines might feel calm and relaxed, while jagged lines can feel tense and energetic. Now, if we could please draw your attention to the shape image, because shapes are closed lines that form flat, two-dimensional areas, or they can be organic and free-flowing and natural. Shapes and add balance, rhythm, and meaning to art, and help create visual interest. And if we draw our attention to the form image, we can see that forms are shapes that have 3 dimensions: length, width, and depth. Examples include spheres, boxes, and cylinders. Form gives art structure and volume, helping it appear more realistic or sculptural. And if we draw our attention to the picture of size with the beautiful, well, the big little baby chicken, size or scale adds emphasis and a variety of a piece of art. Changing the size of objects creates contrast and focus. Larger objects often appear more important or powerful, while smaller ones add balance and detail. And if we draw our attention to the image of space, we can see that space is an area around, between, and within the objects. It helps create depth and perspective. Positive space refers to the subject itself, while negative space is the background or empty area. A good balance of both gives artwork harmony and flow. And if we draw our attention to the texture image, texture is a way of something looks and feels. It can be rough, smooth, soft, or hard. And sometimes it looks different from how it really feels. It's like a prickly looking drawing that feels smooth. In art, texture helps us imagine how something would feel, even in flat pictures. When we learn early on to recognize these beautiful textures like rough, smooth, or fuzzy, and they're all around us. Okay, so now we're going to draw our attention to the wonderful color image, which is my favorite one because I'm a very colorful and bright person and color just makes me so happy. Color can make us feel different emotions. See? And artists use color choice to help tell a story or send a message to their artwork. The color wheel helps us to see how colors are connected, like primary, secondary, and complementary colors, and how mixing them can create new colors or even neutral tones like brown. Together, all of these elements form a building blocks of all creative expression. From a child's painting to a professional masterpiece. Wonderful. So, as you can see, we have two specific images here, and I'm really eager to see the participants commenting on this because I'm taking it to everybody now. The floor is yours. Tell me your thoughts on these two images side by side. Let's think about what does the first one have different to the second in terms of art? What does the owls look so different? Have a think about what this image is. Are you doing more of one of the arts? Are you doing both? Are you doing only structured? I know personally when I look at both of these and I look at the owl side and the owl beautiful artwork, I think of back when I first started in the early childhood sector, that's the type of art that we were doing. And it was so organized and it was down pat and we were making sure the children were putting it in the right area. This was very, very, very long time ago where before it evolved so much. So personally for me, the owls come open-ended materials used, recycled materials. Owls look calmer and organized. Wonderful. Thank you. First one is made from sustainable objects. Absolutely. If you look closer, you can actually see that there's yogurt lids. There's, I think that's rice as well, like colored rice. Beautiful. Thank you. The first art is by a child and the second art is an adult structuring the art. Fantastic. Wonderful. Okay, beautiful. Look at all these comments. The owl looks like the children didn't do much of the work themselves. Absolutely. Great for great form of recycled materials, textured, colors first, all recycling and art activities. The first art seems more expressive. Wonderful. This is excellent reflection, everybody. Thank you so much for participating. The owls are cute, but mostly made by an adult. The first allows the child to express themselves. Excellent. And taking it back to my example, it's almost as if the children did do it, but we instructed them so perfectly where to do it. And this is just not necessarily on just artwork. We did this for Mother's Day, Father's Day, the Christmas, the basic cookie cutter example of art. So wonderful. Thank you, everybody, so much. So when we think of art, we often think of picture, paint, brushes, a blank sheet of A4 paper. the traditional tools many of us grew up with. However, art in early years sector goes far beyond these materials. Art can be created with anything a child can touch, explore, or imagine. From natural objects like leaves, sticks, and shells to recycled materials such as cardboard boxes, bottle caps, fabric scraps, and newspaper. Every texture, color, and shape becomes an opportunity for discovery and self-expression. I love that. That is fabulous because it really, really is. If we're going back in time, knowing and how everything has evolved, and there's so much more that we know now, it is so wonderful to be able to implement these beautiful artworks and practices and being super sustainable. I think everybody can agree with me when I say being sustainable is so important, especially embedding it into the early sector with the children who are our next generation of this beautiful world we live in. Knowing that we can allow them to, yep, no problem, let's grab this, let's grab that, instead of having it to be so structured, getting them to learn that you can make nothing out of something. In your service, this open-ended approach to art encourages creativity, problem solving, and individuality. It's not about the producing of a perfect picture. It's about the process. It's about the journey, the experimentation, and the joy of children's experience. The trial and error theory when they realize that anything can become art. And this is so true. It's so wonderful to see. I'm just having a couple of read of the comments. I'm always looking for different types of resources that children can use for craft. Excellent. And we will definitely be covering that. Thank you for sharing that. It's very exciting what we have here. Okay. So segueing from process and product and what the children learn, I think it was really important that I put out there the different types of learning outcomes that children have with process versus product. Because yes, we're not only saying you have to do process is the only way. We want to look at both sides of it and see that yes, process is amazing, it's sustainable, it's freeing. Product maybe has more purpose to it, maybe more structure, but there is outcomes that children can develop through product and processed. So just here is a table that I've created to the different learning outcomes that children can achieve when engaging in process versus product of art. Now I'm just going to read these out. So looking on the left side with process, creativity and imagination. Children express their ideas, feelings, and unique perspectives. Social and emotional development. Children share materials, collaborate, and experience pride in their individuality. Sensory exploration. Engaging multiple senses enhances understanding and curiosity. Critical thinking and problem solving. They make decisions about what to use, how to use it, and what happens when they mix or change things. Independence and confidence. Making choices builds autonomy and self-esteem. And resilience. Learning that mistakes can lead to new discoveries and persistence. And that's so true. Mistakes are fabulous. We only learn from our mistakes, and we only just can create and develop through our mistakes. See, it applies to whole life, not just that. Okay, so taking a look at product and drawing your eyes to product, we have following instructions. Children practice listening, sequencing, and completing steps in order. That's a wonderful, wonderful learning outcome for the children. It's fabulous. Sense of achievement. Completing a recognizable product can build confidence and pride. understanding structure and routine, learning their specific steps to each steps to each and an end goal. Exposure to techniques introduces children to tools and methods they may later explore independently. Understanding patterns and sequencing, children learn to follow steps and recognize order and logic and process. Memory call, memory and recall, remembering instructions when sequencing the actions. I got really excited just there. So seeing this is just, it's wonderful, because either way, us as educators and, beautiful, beautiful teachers that we are still giving these children a wonderful experience to develop and learn and grow in so many different aspects and ways. And that's why art is so important, because art isn't just painting a picture and it's done. Art is an expression. Art is individuality. Art is just the meaning of feelings and emotions. And as a child, put yourself in your child's shoes again, and being able to really, if I could go back in time and I could be back in my preschool or earlier days, I would just love it. It would be so much fun. So, which is a wonderful segue that's going to lead us to something very important soon that I'm really excited to talk about when it comes to art spaces. So both forms of art express most valuable learning opportunities and simply support the children's development. When children are in the care and engage in the process of art, it focuses on supporting their exploration and creativity and self-expression. And the product, on the other hand, involves guiding the children towards a defined outcome. Although more structured, it is still provides learning, important learning benefits, as we just said. You support children as they learn to follow steps and sequences, develop fine motor skills, and experience a sense of pride and accomplishment. And when they complete a task, the product art also allows you to introduce techniques and tools that children can later use more freely during open-ended art experiences. As an educator, you play an important role in providing a balance of both, offering structure and the skill building opportunities through product art, while also encouraging freedom, individuality, and the exploration through the process of art. When you offer both experiences, you can help children grow into confident and capable and creative learners. Okay, so always it's really important we are making sure at Peak Training and New South Wales Family Daycare, we are always referring to the approved learning framework, just so we can link everything and be as professional as possible. So we have here the connecting the approved learning framework to the outcomes. So art plays such a powerful role in supporting children's learning outcomes. It can be linked to most of the approved learning framework outcomes, which is very interesting. However, today, let's just look a little bit deeper and focus on learning outcome 5. Children are effective communicators, which guides you in supporting children's communication, self-expression, and understanding of the world around them. In essence, the availability of art experiences support your children to become effective communicators by giving them tools and freedom and confidence to express who they are and how they see the world, visually, emotionally, and socially. Remember, the left column is the behaviors you would see the children that indicate that they are meeting the learning outcome, and the right column are the strategies you use to support them to achieve the learning outcome. Through art, you give children the opportunities to use a range of media symbols and materials to express ideas, emotions, and experiences in their own ways that go beyond words. So, drawing your attention, I'm just going to read out some of these learning outcomes. So, starting with the top one here, use symbols in play to represent and make meaning. Begin to make connections between and see patterns in their feelings, ideas, words, and actions, and those of others. Begin to be aware of the relationship between oral, written, visual representation. Listen and respond to sounds and patterns in speech, stories, and rhyme. Draw on memory of sequence to complete a task. Provide children with access to a wide range of everyday materials that they can use to create patterns and to sort, categorize, and order and compare. Scribe descriptions of children's drawings and displays results for comment and reflection. Use language sounds, gestures, and movement to engage in play, to imagine and create roles and scripts and ideas. Share the stories and symbols of their own culture and reenact well-known stories. Use materials to create artwork. For example, drawing, painting, sculpting, drama, dance, movement, music, and storytelling. To express ideas and make meaning. Experiment with these ways of expressing ideas and meaning using a range of media. Use simple tools and techniques to shape and assemble and join materials they are using. I'm just going to draw here and pull this one here. Build on children and families' community experiences with creative and expressive arts. Provide a range of resources that enable all children to express meanings through arts, including visual arts, dance, drama, music, and more. Provide resources that encourage children to experiment with images and print. Respond to children's images and symbols, talking about the elements, the principles, skills, and techniques that they have used in order to convey the meaning. Provide Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders children opportunities to communicate how they are feeling through writing and arts and construction. Right, so let's continue. Thank you, everyone. All right. So now we're going to segue. That's a wonderful way to segue us into the art materials side. Now, having a look at these images here, if you want to share any of your comments or what you feel, or if there's something that you do at your service, or if something that you're possibly working towards in your service, or maybe you want to share some ideas that are along the lines of some of the images or anything that you've done recently, it would be really nice to share in the comment. So art materials, to really engage in art with children, you need to have materials to create. Now, we're going to go through a bit of a list. So the materials to draw with, maybe with pencils, paints, clay to create, materials to paint with, materials to use for collage. So, Guy Lindsay, a lecturer at the Wollongong University, whose PhD explored the visual arts belief and pedagogy of the early childhood sector, says that above all, when choosing art materials, choose materials that allow children to create rich and thick, meaningful marks, which I find very fascinating. She suggests that oily crayons and thick charcoal is wonderful resources. Thick, soft pencils, so not hard ones. So especially a lot of services are using like 4B, 6B, 8B soft ones that are really, really good. Try and draw away from the hard ones because the soft ones are easier to use, as what Lindsay is saying. Acrylic paints, but remember they are a type of plastic. So if you are being mindful and working towards your sustainability, acrylic paint is good, but it does have a type of plastic. Paint made out of corn flour and vegetable dyes, which is really interesting. We also used to use chalk and water as well, and we would mix it and it would actually just stick on the concrete. We would sometimes put it on the concrete with the children. Hard palette watercolors, fabulous. Above all, Dr. Lindsay says educators should test the materials. Is it satisfying for you to use? Does it produce a rich mark on the paper? So that's something to maybe think about and reflect with yourselves. Have you actually used the arts and crafts materials in your service? Have you actually demonstrated to yourself like how it comes out? And is it rich and is it thick and colorful and really, really distinct? Now, thinking and reflecting on about the tools you have in your service. Do you have the scissors and hole punches, staples, tape dispensers, masking tape, brushes, droppers, and mixing palettes? Not all art materials need to cost a lot. Think about it. Collage materials collected from nature, painting with water on concrete, materials from places like reverse garbage. Think about things that draw on that don't cost money. Sand, windows, walls, cardboard boxes, junk mail, fantastic. But pizza boxes. So thinking about those things and to paint with pencils that are cheap, or as sponges and twigs, sticks, or leaves, kitchen tools, feathers, things bought secondhand. Family daycare educators are great at buying secondhand things at garage sales and through Facebook Marketplace, Gumtree. Keep looking for those great materials. So this is something to think about as well. Wonderful. I'm just going to go to the comments here and see if anyone color experiment with natural fruits and vegetables. Such a beautiful idea. Use leaves, bunches as the paintbrushes. Thank you so much for sharing. Beautiful. It was awesome because the child explained the emotions. Wonderful. We are into box construction at the moment. The children are using them for everything, including trees for the animals to hide in. We are gathering items from our nature walks. Fabulous, absolutely beautiful. That is wonderful. You're being out in nature. That is so wonderful. You're connecting the nature to the children's play and art, and it's just exploring and it's developing and it's wonderful. Beautiful. Let's have a look. I've got fruit and love drawing pads from Temu, $10. Looks like iPads, but they're black with drawing pads. Oh, that's fabulous. Thank you. Excellent. Thank you for sharing, everybody. Okay, so now we have a wonderful video. Let's hear from a passionate early childhood teacher, the artist in this interview, Dr. Red Ruby Scarlett. So settle in. This is a 30-minute video. So pop comments up and share and chat with each other, and I look forward to continuing to share more after.
Excited today to be joined by Dr. Red Ruby Scarlett. Dr. Scarlett has been working as an educator in the early education care sector for quite a few years. I won't say how many in case that gives away your age. But she has a heap of qualifications, including a PhD, obviously. That's why she's doctor. And she's also written a wonderful book called Becoming with Art in Early Childhood, which will be on everyone's reading list. So welcome to PD in a Pocket.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm really, really excited to be part of this beautiful conversation.
So, look, I suppose I'd like to ask you first off is why should we be doing art with children, visual art with children in family daycare?
I think, first of all, I just want to say something about the experience of family daycare that's unique to other parts of the profession, particularly around what kind of visual arts you can do, because your home time is a little bit more elastic. You've got a smaller group of children. Those are the things that are actually great conditional or environmental things for really beautiful visual arts to happen. So generally speaking, though, visual arts and children are almost like, if we're talking about visual arts, talking about children and food. Children need food to grow. They need food to be nourished. They need food to live. And visual arts really is, I guess, the vehicle towards all of the ways in which they'll be able to participate, not just in educational experiences, but in life experience, because visual arts is the relationship between how you feel, what you think, and how you express that or learn to express that through colour or line or a particular medium like paint or drawing or something like that.
Okay, so what do you, sometimes, like we know some of the reasons why some family daycare educators are reluctant to engage in, I suppose experimental is the wrong word, to engage intensely in art with children. Like most family daycare educators will have an art table where children will be able to do things, but they don't extend it much more than that. Do you have any ideas of why some educators are reluctant to explore heavily with art?
There's probably three things. The first thing is, I think the outside pressures of what non-early childhood people think is good art or the right kind of art to do for children. So we end up with a lot of paper plate stuff or stencils or things like that because there's a societal understanding that if they do that, that's a great learning experience. I think the second thing is that in the Cert 3, and some people have done diplomas, the focus on arts is like a teeny tiny touch. I don't think that we prepare people well in pre-service situations to A, give people skills and to B, give people confidence to try different things. And the third thing is, I know, I've done lots and lots of art workshops over the years, and the most common response that people have when I ask them about why they struggle with doing visual arts is that they're scared or they've had a bad experience themselves in their childhood or in their educational experience. So that idea of confidence is, well, I'm not an artist, therefore I can't do art. And I guess the message I've been trying to get across through the book Becoming with Art and also the series that I have that's called Art for Educators is that we can learn how to do things. You don't have to be an artist to be able to provide really beautiful arts experiences for children where they can succeed, and then you realise, hey, I'm actually quite good at this because I just put these things out, I learned a little bit about how to use them, and then I was able to create this wonderful ongoing learning experience for children.
I think that thing that you said about as adults we may have had something terrible happen to us as children in art that convinced us that we're not artists is one of the reasons why we have to do it so well with this generation of children, so you don't get a bunch of adults, children growing up to be adults who also believe that they can't create art.
Yeah, we don't want to keep that cycle going.
So can you explain, what you would see as a kind of a great engagement with art, a great way to do art with children, and perhaps a less good way to do art with children?
So I'll give you a couple of examples, like really practical examples. I think that the first thing is to bust the stereotype. So it's great to have things on a table for children to do. It's great to have like an easel set up and painting or drawing or those things there. But I think the most successful ways in which I've seen people, particularly in family daycare, do arts practice well is by thinking more broadly across the environment. So, for example, we talk a lot about loose parts, right? Loose parts is a great theory. There's lots of value to it, but it's the way you present things. So if you have a series of matchy container things and you have them all sorted into their colours, and you do the research yourself and with children to say which order should these colours go in for us to understand a rainbow, for example, and you present those things out, that's a process where children are involved in setting up an arts experience. Educators are learning with children to do that. It's all recycled, so it's completely inexpensive, and the visual of that looks extraordinary. I'll send you some photographs to share with people. And then what you have is an opportunity for children to just play with those things and arrange them through colour, through size, through shape, through length, all of those different elements that we already are familiar with. We're confident with that bit. But sometimes I think it's just getting the idea for setting things up that then enable creativity. And the other part that goes with that is people go, but that's so simple. That's where you get the best results with art stuff. When you've got more and more and more, it's an overwhelm. Like imagine if you walked into a studio, there's pencils here, there's paints there, there's all kinds of drawing implements you've never even heard of over there. That would be overwhelm. But if you've got one thing laid out really, really carefully and really beautifully, and you've been involved in that process of laying it out, then the arts experiences are far more meaningful and they become richer because they're really firing up children's imagination. So if you think about drawing, we talk about drawing as if we're going to use a pencil or a texter or a crayon of some sort. When you have these beautiful little recycled materials laid out, obviously you check the safety and size and all of those kinds of things, but you are actually drawing by pattern making, or you are drawing by creating shapes and images and lines out of those very materials. The other great part is you can photograph them, children can photograph them, very practical, very easy, and then you can sort them back so that they're there to be used again for another time. And so I think visual arts kind of get separated out into, oh, well, that must be a fine motor experience because you're drawing with things, rather than this is a visual art experience because you're playing with colour and you're creating shapes and you might be telling a story about it. And all of that is exactly what visual arts are there to represent. They're there for us to express our thoughts, our feelings, our imagination, and, working things out in our minds, and that's how we express them on paper. That's what children do.
Okay, and on the other side of that, a bad experience, or one bad is the wrong word, one that is less meaningful.
I guess I talk about the struggle. So what's the struggle with us providing arts experiences? And then what's the struggle for children when they're trying to do them and it doesn't work out, or it becomes a big mess, so it's kind of like the setting up part creates the struggle because the educator's really wanting to do a good job but struggling to do that. In turn, the children then struggle, so it kind of becomes a bit of a flop. And, you know, essentially in early childhood, everything we do, we want people to feel really good about themselves. So being able to approach a situation that is a struggle in a different way then enables children to experience it in a different way. So sometimes it can be, and there was a research paper somebody did about this that talked about sometimes we create all environments, but particularly arts environments, like a supermarket. So there'll be the brushes here, then there'll be paints there, then there'll be crayons here, there'll be pencils here. And there's so much there that then it just becomes a great big mess. And what often happens after that is people give up and say, oh, well, the children don't respect the space. But I think the thinking beforehand will actually stop that struggle in its tracks. And the thinking beforehand, which is your planning and your planning cycle, is how do I create something small and achievable? So as an educator, I'm going to select some things that I know are going to work really well to help children express themselves. So you might say, I'm just going to have lead pencils out and I'm going to have white paper today, but I'm going to have the really soft pencils because I know that children really love that experience when a pencil feels creamy and they go over it and over it and over it on the paper. So there's this wonderful kind of sensory experience, if you like, by putting out just those pencils. Then that might go on for a little while and you observe what children do. The next thing is that you might then introduce colour. And so you may even go, right, here's a whole set of pencils, go crazy. Or you might say, let's start with warm colours. We know that there's warm colours and cool colours. That's a really easy thing to learn about. Google warm colours and let's put out warm colours and see what comes from that. Or let's Google cool colours, which can all be done with children, and let's explore cool colours. And then do our drawings look different when we use cool colours? Do we feel different when we use cool colours? For very young children, I know people are always saying, how do you do this with infants? It's interesting to watch what they go for. Do they go for the warm colours and use them? Do they go for the cool colours and use them? So just by bringing everything down to something small and achievable that everybody understands, educators and children, you then have this great opportunity for success in providing those arts experiences. And then it takes away that struggle that then says, oh, it's a mess and it's too much and, I don't know how to do this and blah, 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 blah. So I think it really is about slowing things down and choosing one. We call them elements of design. So colour is one, line is another one, texture is another one, direction is another one. So you can kind of, shape is another one. You can kind of go through and choose those things and think, I'm going to create some experiences around that. The comforting part about working with the elements of design in visual arts is because of the language, you realise, well, actually that's maths as well. There's science in that as well. There's language and literacy in that as well. So art really encapsulates all of the things that that children need to learn, which is quite reassuring and quite exciting, I think. So, so I guess thinking about it like that, slowing it down and making some really deliberate decisions with small achievable things. I really do believe there's quite a lot of pressure on educators to have 50,000 things, and if it doesn't look like a busy environment, then we mustn't be doing our job properly. And that's a real struggle for lots of people, and I know that people feel that pressure. I feel that pressure, and I've got 35 years experience, that I've got to go, hang on a minute, I know better learning is going to come out when I've got something that's really well thought out and it's easy and small and achievable. So for all of those things I've just said, you don't need to be an artist to be able to achieve them. And they look pretty in photos.
Do we need to teach children how to be artists?
Do we need to teach children arts practice? Yes. Do we need to teach children to be artists? My belief is, and you can call me one-eyed, I think every human is a walking piece of artwork. But do we need to teach them arts practices and skills? Absolutely. Now, once again, I know that there's a philosophical tension there because the minute we say we want to teach children something, we think that it's sitting down and listening and, quite didactic and direct. It's not. There's lots of ways that that you can teach children arts practices or skills, again, in that, with that thinking in mind that I'm going to make this small and achievable, and I'm going to see what happens when I teach children those skills. One example, when I was doing my PhD at Tillman Park, beautiful Paniota, who is the baby whisperer, we were looking at the types of art practice that the very young children got, and it was big paintbrushes, blob, blob, blob. It was sticking things to paper plates, and, it was a bit of fun, but they lasted 2 seconds. There was no long-term engagement. And so I said to Paniota, can we try something a little bit different? It might seem a bit wacky, but can we try something different? And I said, when I look at infants, like birth to twos, let's say, what are they expert on? They are expert on tiny, because they're the tiniest humans on the planet. They've got the teensy-weensiest little fingers. They will find that freckle.
Some babies have got quite chubby fingers.
They do, but they're small. But they will find that piece of glitter on the ground. So they have this kind of incredible capacity to have this connection with tiny. So I said to her, development will tell us that we've got to give them fat things to hold. But what if we tried to do tiny with them? So we gave them teeny tiny little crayons about that big, and we gave them teeny tiny paper about that big. And it was really interesting to see the control that they had, because obviously their fine motor skills have got a long way to develop, but the control that even very young bubbers who weren't walking, they're in high chairs, had in that experience, because they are so used to being small and focused. Then what we did was we tested our theory. We gave them A3 paper and bigger crayons, and of course they went like that, and it was over in 2 seconds. Then we gave them the small paper again, and there was this engagement. And eventually, because we gave them similar experiences, not the same, but similar experiences all the time, those very, very young children were sitting there for periods of up to an hour sometimes, because some of them would cover the whole page. Some of them would do lots of drawings, one after the other, on the teeny tiny paper. And we learned about this expertise. Well, that was our claim, that when we gave them big, it was like this and over in 2 seconds. When we gave them little, it drew them into their own expertise. And so I love that story, because it felt like we were doing, taking a bit of a risk. But what we got out of it was not just beautiful, like you can imagine little tiny lines and how squiggly they would have been, gorgeous. So not only did we get beautiful art, but we learned so much about the children, and we learned so much about ourselves and what gets in the way of doing beautiful art, particularly with young children like that. So
I think that kind of story is really inspiring, because I'm sure a lot of educators listening to us tonight, or watching this video, will go, "Wow, yeah, I want to try that with my children." Can you give me two instances of things that you think have worked really well with the children you've been working with?
Yeah, sure. So, and I'm happy to give you a few other prompts if you think people will find those things helpful. Because the good thing is, when you say use little paper and use little pieces of crayons, tiny pencils, it's not like you're giving a standard thing. So anybody can provide that to children, but you'll get different results. I want to talk a little bit, before I give you two more examples, I just want to talk a little bit about the teaching. So we will, when children are sometimes just picking up the crayons or the pencils, practicing that. And so showing children, oh, I'm going to pick it up like this. Now I'm going to pick it up with all my fingers. Now I'm going to pick it up and put it between these two fingers. So you're kind of giving them ideas about how they might build a relationship with those arts materials. And by doing it together as a little playful moment, that's how the teaching happens. It doesn't happen as in you sit here and put your pencil up and put your paper on the table. So that's one thing. The other thing is that when we're, like if I'm introducing watercolours to children, and I have done this with very young children, right, birth to 5, but always do the work with the infants as well, is that I never draw for children. I never give them outlines. I never give them those kinds of things. But I will go, when I use a watercolour pencil, Sometimes I do a line. Sometimes I'll do a little wiggle on the page. I'll do it softly, and this time I'm going to press hard because it looks different. And then I'm going to get the watercolour brush and go, and I can make this one lighter here by just putting a little bit of water there, or I can make this one a nice creamy spot because I've got quite a lot of pencil there, and when I swish it around, it's going to make a lovely blob. And so then they get the technique of how to use the watercolour pencil that has two parts to it. But it's also then valuing that it doesn't have to draw a person. They don't have to draw a cat or, everybody should draw cats. What am I saying? They don't have to draw a thing. It's the experience of learning the skill of using the arts materials. And what naturally happens for children is that they then go, it will remind them of something. Oh, that looks like my auntie's swimming pool. And then suddenly a swimming pool story will come from it. So it does this beautiful thing of conjuring up imagination by learning the skill of how to use that. And look, obviously I think Google and YouTube are such wonderful resources for 10-minute, 5-minute videos, how to use watercolour pencils. You can always ask me. There's, any of those things, there are always easy ways to find those things out. And it's watching that stuff with children too. It's fun to watch, well, how are we going to use this together? So not being under pressure that you've got to make all these decisions without involving children. So the other thing that I just wanted to say about great experiences is I think the beauty of family daycare, as I said, is you've got a small number of children. The older children will teach the younger children. So just by being together, you get this wonderful experience because children will have some knowledge of colour, line, shape, all those elements of design. And they'll bring that into the conversation, which is the beautiful language piece that's going on. So the success is that when people might say, oh, that's only for the older children. Because you're in this ideal context, you can teach something to the older children, and the younger children are automatically going to want to be part of that because it's a clear, beautiful space. There's one thing going on. Your relationship is driving the engagement with that material, and then you get these beautiful outcomes. And in your head you go, it doesn't have to be a thing. They don't have to draw a something or other, knowing that they eventually will. All you have to do is surrender to that encounter, be in that moment with those children, pass on that skill or learn the skill together, and then you get this wonderful instant success. So the third thing I'm going to tell you is a fun way to start. Drawing seems to be the most familiar with people. It also seems to be the one that people have the most about because, I can't draw. But there are three types of...
Can I just stop you there? Why the inverted commas? Like, some of us can't draw.
Oh, look, the phrase that comes to mind is pants on fire. I think that it depends what you think drawing is. So we think drawing is being able to create a Leonardo da Vinci, and whilst his sketches are lovely, if you think about Indigenous artists, it's a completely different use of the elements of design in terms of how people are represented or what a portrait looks like. So I think the stereotype about what drawing is makes us feel like we can or can't draw, because the minute you put a mark on paper, that's a drawing.
Whoa, okay, mind blown, but keep going.
You're a drawer, Lisa Bryant, I know it. Well, it is, and it's then to value that, because then you'll go, oh, well, if I put another line here, it turns into something else. If I add something else, it's something else. Drawing isn't about making a picture. It's about expressing a feeling, and it's about having a relationship with the material and the moment to produce something. So three fun ways to think about drawing is, and just put out soft lead pencils and just some A4 paper, really simple to start with. They're drawing by observation. So I'll get my glasses, maybe not glasses, I'll get a cup and I'll draw. I'll say to the children, do you reckon you could draw that by looking at it? This is looking and drawing, looking and drawing. So that's, again, teaching another skill, looking and drawing, which they're kind of doing anyway. If they draw a picture of their house, they've looked at their house, they've drawn their house. But you can give them interesting things to look at, look and draw, look and draw. The second thing is that you then draw by memory. what did you do at the weekend? We went to the park with our dog and we da-da-da-da-da. Now, you might not draw the scene of the park. You might draw the dog. The child might draw the dog or the dog's foot or the dog's ear or a bone or whatever, goes with that moment. But that still counts as a drawing by memory. And then the last one is drawing by imagination, which we see children do a little bit more when they're kind of older because they start drawing and then it'll turn into something else. The other part is that then that they'll be into a TV show or they'll have seen a movie or grandma's read them a storybook that they love that's got all these wonderful, enchanting fantasy themes in it. And so then that will start to influence their drawings. So thinking about that, what it also gives you is something to do. It gives you a framework for analysis. Is this drawing by observation? What skills are involved? We know that developmental stuff. Is this drawing by memory? Is a child telling me something about where they've been or who they're connected with or where they live or something that they love? And then drawing by imagination, I can see that this child's got a wild imagination, or I can see that there's a lot of input from TV there, or I can see that they go for lots of walks in the bush, or so, and then fairies make it into the bush or whatever it is that conjures up their imagination. So that's the beauty of really slowing things down, making them small and achievable, and giving yourself permission to go, that might take me a few goes, but I can definitely learn how to do it.
Okay, that kind of inspires me to go out and do it straight away. One final question, right? Presume I'm an educator that has lead pencils, textures, some paper and a set of cheap paints on my, for my children to play with. And you've inspired me to maybe explore something a bit more. What are the essential art materials that every family daycare educator's home should have?
There's two parts to that. One is the good old-fashioned, what was the box they had on Play School, the useful box? A useful box of recycled, clean, obviously, recycled materials is essential because it then enables you you can draw with fabric, you can draw with string, you can draw with bottle tops, you can draw with those collected items. So that's one piece, but I would have them all, of course, beautifully organised. The second piece is having some lovely soft lead pencils, and they're not too expensive. I think there's a stereotype that really good art stuff is super expensive. I mean, there is some super expensive stuff, but buy relatively good quality and teach the skill and it will last forever. And the way that I explain that is you can buy textures, a lid gets lost, they get wrecked, you buy the $2 shop ones, they're more likely to get wrecked because they don't do the job. By the time you add up the amount of times you've bought the $2 shop textures, that will equate to 5 packets of really good quality textures. And you can get them you can get not bad ones in like Target. So I'm not talking about hundreds of dollars here. I'm just talking about, a little bit higher end. So I would definitely have soft lead pencils. I would have some nice quality colour pencils. I would have textures I am and are with, because a lot of the drawing that I do with children is with black felt tip stuff, because from an educational perspective, it's like, think about scientific diagrams. They're kind of pencil or ink and paper, that's it. So if we think about working things through in terms of drawing, just having paper, white paper and black outline pens gives the opportunity for children to work things through without the distraction of colour. But at the same time, or as another experience, you want colour to be available. So therefore you'll have some really nice, I don't use crayons with children. I don't really use pastels. I use a medium called Conte. It's a cross between a chalk and a crayon. And again, they're little and children know to care for them. I've had a tin of them for, I don't know, at least 5 years since I've been at Clovelly, and they're being used well, but they've lasted and lasted and lasted, because children use them really well. So I think, main things are have paint that's, like Chroma's a really good brand. It's washes out of clothes, it's ethically made, and it's not too expensive. Get some nice paper and pencils. Use recycled paper wherever you can. And you can talk to children about, this one's a draft, this one's a thinking piece. If we do want to make something special, we might use that paper. But when we're doing lots of drafts, when we're practicing over and over, isn't it good, sustainability-wise, to use some recycled paper so we can practice up all the things that we'd like to express and then express them on the good one. So I think, pencils, lead pencils for sure, some good quality colour pencils, paper, nice paper, cartridge paper if you want for watercolours, watercolour pencils, and some nice quality paints. But remember, don't have them all out at once. Choose one thing, explore it over and over, and make sure you give yourself, I'm going to do this 5 times before I go, oh, that hasn't worked, I'm going to give up. So the will and the commitment and the relationship are as much as what you'll get out of the medium as what the medium is.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure that people are inspired to get out there and get some of those things immediately and start working with us. Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful. And I'm looking forward to seeing your drawing, Lisa, given that you're about to dash out and start too.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Lisa.
Wasn't that fabulous? I was just reading some of the comments as we were watching the video. Everybody was saying such wonderful things. Sounds excellent. Looking forward to it. Thank you. Good ideas. Very informative. Good ideas. Someone said nothing. $2. I buy all stationery from Officeworks. Interesting. This is fabulous. This is fantastic. So this video has really opened up everybody's eyes, and it was Dr. Red Ruby was just wonderful. She was very easy to understand and clearly explained herself. She made it sound so much more simple than we think, and than it is as well. So such a great aspect to have on such a wonderful educated educator and artist and doctor that really wanted to share her experience with us. So very, very good. Thank you so much. So now, as Dr. Red Ruby has explained a lot of the stuff with art and the depths of it and the simplest things and the practices and understanding, we will now segue into our art spaces, which is really important. And I want to draw your attention to this wonderful picture here. So what can you see in this art space? I'm happy to read. I'm going to read the comments as well, because this is really interesting to see, taking it to the wonderful participants. What is about this art space that you think that you really like, that you might be really easy for the children? You think it's really simple, or is it too busy? It was very well organized, someone said. I believe it's a great idea to have lots of resources. Love the glass. I love the glass too. I'm a very big fan of risk play, and I love children really taking that opportunity to, have that glass there and learn about it and what's inside, and easy access for kids and myself. Fabulous setup. I love the children's work has been within the spaces. It's wonderful. So here in this beautiful image, we've got low shelves or containers of materials that children can independently reach, a clear table or area where materials are laid out and ready for the children to use, a variety of materials, examples, paints and scissors and papers and loose parts, encouraging activity, spaces that feel inviting and organized yet flexible, not locked away or really overly formal. It's important to take the time to reflect on the art spaces within your service and consider how accessible they truly are for the children in your care. There are some limits on what they can use and when they can create. Are some art materials locked away for special occasions? Or do you catch yourself worrying about more of the mess than the opportunity of exploration? When you take a step back and look at your environment through a child's eyes, you begin to see the powerful freedom and choice that can be in their creative experiences. Children should have access to a wide variety of materials so they can explore and experiment and express. They shouldn't need permission to begin an art experience. Their curiosity and imagination should guide them. Your role as an educator is to provide supervision, encouragement, support, and no restrictions. An open and accessible art space empowers children to make decisions, test ideas, and build confidence in their abilities. It fosters independence, creativity, problem solving, essential skills that are extended from far beyond the art table. Now, drawing your attention to this image, this is not slightly different. This is very, very different. I want to see some comments about this image at the moment here. It is well organized, not going to deny that. But what is different in this space? What would the outcome be for a child to want to engage in the art or create an idea during their play? Does this look like, hey, come and pick some art supplies. Let's make that idea come to life. What is inviting about this space for the child? It's all in one space. It's an adult space, not appealing for a child, a bit crowded, not inspiring. That is too much and very compact. Absolutely. You do not need to offer everything. Set out minimal items that you would like the children to have access and rotate. When you choose to close off and hide and lock away art materials and creative spaces, the children in your care lose valuable opportunities for exploration and experimentation. Without easy access to a variety of materials, their natural curiosity and motivation can quickly fade. Their restrictions can limit their ability to make independent choices, take risks, and develop problem-solving skills, all which are essential for their cognitive and emotional growth. But when art feels inaccessible, children may begin to view creativity as something that requires permission rather than everyday part of their learning and play. By keeping your art spaces and materials open, inviting, and easy to reach, you foster a strong sense of agency and confidence. You empower children to express their unique ideas and emotions. You don't need to offer everything all at once. Set out small, simple sections of materials. Beautiful. So now we're going to draw our attention to art spaces, but in the different type of art forms. To truly nurture children's creativity and independence, you need to ensure that art spaces are open, accessible, and welcoming. When children can easily see and reach and choose materials on their own, you empower them to explore and express themselves freely. As you can see in these images, you've thoughtfully arranged dress-up, role play, and music materials to be open and easy accessible to children. By providing this level of accessibility, you give children a strong sense of agency and independence, encouraging them to make their own choices and engage freely in creative play. When you allow children to explore these spaces without barriers, you show them that their ideas, emotions, and cultural identities are valued and worth expressing. So just making sure when you are setting up these spaces, be mindful of these 5 things. Visibility, display materials openly on low shelves or tables where children can easily have access to them and view them. Accessibility, arrange materials so children of all ages and abilities can independently select and return items. Inviting displays, showcase children's artworks prominently and celebrate their creative efforts. Rotate art displays regularly. Variety and open-ended materials. Provide a mixture of textures and colors and types of materials, including natural and recycled and loose parts. And flexible space. Create areas that accommodate individual or group experiences. Allow children to choose their preferred way to engage. Now, how do you inspire children to create art? Now, quite a bit of what Dr. Red Ruby did discuss was she mentioned something about having items on the table and looking and drawing and looking and drawing. Can you create setups of objects that children can observe to make more observational drawings? Provide mirrors to encourage self-portraits. Put flowers in clear vases so children can try and draw flowers with their parts from observation. Have an old overhead projector so children can project images they create on the ceilings and walls. What about pocket projector you can attach from your phone? Do you have a light table? What happens if you set up a book as inspiration or examples for particular artist works? Lots of mix and loose parts for children to sort and categorize. Set up baskets with stone, shells, and leaves. These are just suggestions. Use your imagination and the knowledge of the children that you care for and come up with these wonderful ideas on your own. So I love this image of the beautiful little easel and the painting for the inspiration. And if you look very carefully, that's not paper that the children are drawing on. That's cardboard cut out of a box, which I love that. Fabulous. Okay, so what art experiences will you offer your children from tomorrow? So having a think about that now. I wish this setup in my daycare, very nice setup. A variation helps develop the curiosity and the skills rather than viewing on an object for a long period. Wonderful. I'm loving all of these comments. Does anybody have any questions? We have just hit the exact time. I'm happy if people want to start. If they're up with their time and they need to pop off, if you want to hang around for a minute or so, because we just have reached our mark of time. Does anyone have any questions they want to share, or just something that they felt was really nice about this beautiful PD that was delivered? Is there something that you learnt from the PD? I learnt a lot. Thank you so much. Wonderful. Thank you, everybody. Very nice. Thank you. It was very interesting. Beautiful presented, beautifully. Thank you very much. You explained a lot. I learnt so much in various ways. Thank you. Thank you all very much. This was so wonderful. I'm so excited. Learnt a lot for everybody now. I can't even catch up with it. We had a really big turnout today. So I just actually want to thank you all very much for taking the time this evening, really participating and just giving yourself a space to upskill and learn and better yourselves each and every day. Thank yourselves for taking the time of today and stepping out. And please don't forget, the survey is after, so we would love your thoughts and information on this as well. Anything that you want to share, anything that we can improve on, any topics you want us to cover. And also making sure that you register. When you've registered, you will all get your wonderful certificates and a statement of attendance in next week. From today, it'll be a week. Again, info@peaktraining.edu.au. If anything happens, thank you all so much for the love. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Goodbye.
Thanks for participating in this episode of PD in Your Pocket. This series was produced on the lands of the Wangal and Gadigal peoples. If you'd like to watch or listen to other episodes in this series, or find out more information about this program, you can find us at our website at nswftc.org.au/PD in Your Pocket.